were Muslims. Muslims were killed by these people who had come from Pakistan. They killed them in the name of Kashmiris, even though they were not Kashmiris. Afghan situation. What happened after September 11, particularly the war against terrorism? What has been the impact of it on the situation in Kashmir? What is likely to be the impact of it? A number of organizations from Pakistan had gone into Afghanistan to help the Taliban, to help the Al-Qaeda. All these are Pakistani organizations which have been operating in J&K today. They had gone to Afghanistan. The Harkatul Mujahideen had gone. The Harkatul Jihad al-Islami had gone. The Jaish-e-Mohammed had gone. The Lashkar-e-Toiba had gone. According to Herald, the most prestigious monthly journal of Pakistan, which is published by the Dawn Group of Karachi, about 6,000 Pakistanis are believed to have been killed as a result of US airstrikes in Afghanistan. Independent estimates put the number of Pakistanis belonging to these organizations who were killed by the US airstrikes there at 8,000 plus. I'm inclined to agree with this assessment, but a large number managed to survive. The number of survivors is estimated at around 20,000. They are all back in Pakistan from Afghanistan. 20,000 people, all trained in the training camps of Bin Laden by the Arab instructors of 055 Brigade. They are all back there. They come back to Pakistan with redoubled anger. Redoubled anger against the United States, anger against India. Anger against the United States, which they hold responsible for the casualties suffered by their comrades in Afghanistan during the airstrikes. Anger against India because they think India was instrumental in helping the Northern Alliance capture Kabul, capture Mazar-e-Sharif, and come to power there. They have been accusing India of having trained, armed the Northern Alliance. They say Northern Alliance would not have been able to keep up its fight against the Taliban, but for the assistance which they had been getting from India since 1996. So these elements have come back with their capability intact. We have to assess what has been the impact, results of the war against terrorism waged by the international community. You judge the results of a war against terrorism on the basis of three parameters. Parameter number one, territory gained or lost. Parameter number two, leadership neutralized and cadres neutralized. And parameter number three, capability neutralized. In the case of war against terrorism, territory is not important because terrorism is a war between the visible force of the state and the invisible force of the terrorists. So it doesn't make sense for the terrorists to lose this advantage of invisibility by training to acquire territory and keep territory. So the moment the international community's war against terrorism started, they disappeared from whichever territory which they were controlling. So that parameter doesn't apply in assessing the results of a war against terrorism. Leadership, what leadership was neutralized? According to the coalition center set up by the international coalition in the US Embassy in Islamabad, they hold daily press briefing. The Al-Qaeda, it was estimated to have a total leadership of 42, out of whom 6 were killed by the action of the international community and 2 were captured. That is 34 leaders, including Osama bin Laden, are still alive or still at large. The Taliban had a leadership of 27, out of whom 3 were accounted for, and subsequently Mutawakil, foreign minister, has been captured. That leaves 23 people, including the Amir of the Taliban, Mullah Muhammad Omar, are still at large. The cadres, as I said, 8,000 plus cadres belonging to various organizations were killed, but 20,000 have managed to survive the US airstrikes and they have come back. During this war against terrorism, there has been a lot of destruction of the infrastructure on the ground, but there has been no significant capture, no significant seizure of arms and ammunition. That region had a large quantities of arms ammunition, initially some supplied during the war of the 1980s against the Soviet troops. Subsequently, large quantities of arms and ammunition of Soviet origin or Russian origin were captured when the Najibullah government fell in April 1992. There has been no significant seizure of arms and ammunition. That region had the world's largest supply of heroin stocks, which could be used for terrorist operations. More heroin stocks than the Myanmar region, than the Golden Triangle region. There has not been a single seizure of any major quantity of heroin during this war against terrorism. And there has not been a single seizure of any of the notorious heroin smugglers. The narcotics organizations of the world have listed more than 50 heroin smugglers of the world who are operating in this region. There are no reports of even a single of these narcotic smugglers being killed or captured. And then the seizure of terrorist funding. The United States took the lead, and the United Nations for a number of other countries seizing the accounts, etc. The government of Pakistan also took prompt action to close these accounts and to seize them. But if you see, because every country is required to submit a report, a compliance report to the UN Security Council under UN Security Council Resolution number 1373, when Pakistan took action, Al-Qaeda had one account in a Pakistan bank which was being operated by Ayman al-Zawahiri, and it had a total balance of US dollars 252. The Harkatul Mujahideen had one bank account which had a total balance of US dollars 70. The Jaish-e-Mohammed, which Mr. Bush named as one of the most hazardous, most dangerous terrorist organizations of the world, in his State of the Union message, had a balance of US dollars 14. These details have been given by the News of Islamabad. So the leadership is intact, the trained cadres are intact, the arms and ammunition are intact, the heroin money is intact. So their capability has remained, and they're just now regrouping and relocating themselves, and they're waiting for an opportunity to start a new phase of terrorist actions. We in India, and I particularly, consider three incidents as interconnected. One is the attack on the Indian Parliament on December 13. Number two, the attack on the security forces who were guarding the American Center in Calcutta on January 22, and the kidnapping and the murder of Daniel Pearl in Karachi on January 23. All these actions were committed by the same group of people who all had a common origin: Jaish-e-Mohammed, Harkatul Jihad al-Islami, Harkatul Mujahideen. Omar Saeed, who was captured and who is presently under interrogation in Pakistan, is reported to have told the interrogators that all these three actions were committed by the same group of people. So this indicates that there is still a lot to be done in the war against terrorism. The last point which I would like to make: what is government of India doing about it? People will ask, because one has to see. There are two things. One is a counter-terrorist policy. The other is a counter-terrorism policy. What Israel follows, we call it a counter-terrorist policy. That is, you direct all your operations against the organization, against the individuals who are office bearers or carriers of that organization. India does not follow a counter-terrorist policy. India follows a counter-terrorism policy. A counter-terrorism policy looks upon terrorism as a phenomenon, where it has a political aspect, it has an economic aspect, it has a social aspect, it has a number of other aspects. You have to tackle all these aspects together if ultimately you have to find a solution to the problem of terrorism. That is what the government of India has been trying to do, improving the economic conditions of the people. One of the reasons why insurgency started in Kashmir in 1989 was because of the perception of misgovernance by different governments in Jammu and Kashmir, because of perceptions of irregularities in the elections committed there. And this movement started getting aggravated because of perceptions of human rights violations by the security forces. So all these aspects are being paid attention to now. The economic development, making sure, giving greater powers to the Election Commission, making sure that the elections in Kashmir would be totally free of any irregularities, so that people have no reason to doubt the genuineness of the elections, and also human rights. The ICA, International Committee of the Red Cross, is being increasingly associated with monitoring the human rights situation, with training the security forces. It has a very large setup today in India. And a retired officer of the Border Security Force, one of the paramilitary forces of India, which is responsible for operations inside Jammu and Kashmir, has been working with the ICRC as consultant, organizing interactions with various security forces, organizing training classes, etc. So we are confident as a result of this, over a period of years, we will be able to bring down the level of alienation. Before coming here, I had been to Washington, D.C. A number of people asked me questions. The Indian genius produced a solution in Punjab. The situation in Punjab used to be as bad as the situation in Jammu and Kashmir has been. We had 6 hijackings. One aircraft, Kanishka, was blown up off the Irish coast, killing all the passengers. There was an attempt to blow up another aircraft in the Narita airport in Tokyo. At one stage later, we all thought India would not be able to deal with the situation in Punjab.